to the meeting. So thank you everyone for being here today. I'm very excited to introduce your presenter, Dr. Taruni Lamberg. She's a professor of math education at the University of Nevada, Reno, and has conducted research on successful adults and how they navigated school, and lots of other interesting things too that aren't in the bio. Relevant to today, she's going to share ideas that come from her books about parents and teachers sparking the math brain, insights on what motivates students to learn math and math learning strategies, how parents and teachers can help their kids excel in math. And then once you learn to love those books, I know you'll look her up and the other ones she's written too that she also left out of her bio. We are truly lucky to have Taruni here with us today, so I will give her the floor.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to meet people from all around the state of Nevada. I have literally driven 40,000 miles across Nevada the last 19 years. So I live in Reno at UNO. So, and it looks like we have lots of different grades, ages. Really, as I was kind of like writing or looking into I have worked with teachers. I've been an elementary teacher. I worked with teachers around the state in training them in math education. I teach pre-service teachers, but my real thinking about the partnerships with parents came as a parent, thinking about, what makes, how do I support my own child? So there's like a personal journey as well as going, well, this is some area that I feel like that all of us can kind of think about so that we can make our work easier. So I'm going to share the PowerPoint and make sure you see it. Can you see is it on? Okay, great. So, so see everybody. So part of it is looking at how can we develop partnerships with parents and families so that it's meaningful, so that it makes our work less stressful and it helps and supports parents. So I'm just curious, what are some things that you're currently doing in your schools to kind of build partnerships and like benefits and challenges? I can't see the chat, so if you see anything in the chat, Heather, would you mind reading it out loud?
So Lisa added family night.
Oh, wonderful. I think one of the hardest things, even as a teacher, you have so much on your plate and trying to juggle, like I can barely keep up with the kids. Where does the parents come in? So part of it is like thinking about how do we fit this into the schedule? So I thought I have this video, which I found on YouTube actually. Can you hear the sound? Okay, you should hear it.
My daughter had always been a good student, always loved school. Then suddenly in the fourth grade, just kind of
We're hearing it, but we're not seeing it.
just wasn't interested in it.
Let me see. Let me share it again. I love technology. Yes. Let's see that. Try re-sharing it with what happened to the video.
As teachers, we experience it all the time.
The fun part of technology. I thought I had perfected this during Zoom during the pandemic. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay.
Anymore. She'd struggle to get out of bed. She'd fake being sick. Getting her to complete her homework was a total battle. It's as if, almost overnight, she decided school wasn't for her. After she brought home a bad score on a math test, we requested a meeting with her teacher.
Well, my concern is when she comes home, for example, this math test brought it up again, which is she pulls up the math test, okay, what did you do wrong? And she seems to have absolutely no idea. I know her well enough to where she's testing is
Not where she is.
way below. One of the things I've just been thinking about is, we had a very frank talk the other night. I don't know how to work through this, but she just kind of said, I said, well, describe to me how you feel in class. Like, what's going on? Because as I had it, it's as if she was never here for some of the, now sometimes she's not here, but when she is here, she's not here. And clearly there's talking going on and whatnot. But I said, so when you're looking up at the, it's math time.
Yeah.
What are you feeling? And she said, I live up and I'm not interested.
Really? My daughter's in law school right now, and Scout, everybody who gets to law school have to be pretty smart to get there, right? So it's a lot of people who are really smart in law school. And my daughter for the first time, it's really hard for her. Truthfully, you're building your character right now. You're building that perseverance and that sense of I want to do my best.
Now, freeze. Look at that face right there. I know that face. That face is saying, this is bad.
Off, and now I'll share the PowerPoint. So I just wanted us to kind of like discuss, like, I'm sure that this is there are similar situations. Let's see, can you see it? You share. Can you see it?
Yep, it's back.
So what are some things you observed in the scene? And we'll have to read any chats because I can't see them.
Well, the girl didn't say anything.
And she was crying.
What else did you notice in the scene?
In the chat was added agreed. There's no actual student input. It didn't really include everyone in the conversation.
And so if you were like say meeting with this parent, whether as a principal or a teacher, like what kind of things would you want to come out of this meeting?
More support, more encouragement.
From the parents?
Yes. How can we support her to like math and not shut down? Not cry about it, not be fearful of it.
So those are some good goals as to like what can the parents do to support.
Right.
And as you're looking at the video from because it looks like it was the dad. I just like randomly found this video and I thought, you can sit there and talk theory, but sometimes looking at a scenario helps us kind of like think about, using that context. From the dad's perspective, I'm assuming it's the dad who took the video. What are you noticing from the parents' perspective? And what do you think they want out of the meeting?
Well, I think it's good they have an awareness. I mean, it's clear that he's seen something different. And so for me, that's definitely a starter, right? Sometimes families, if they don't know or they don't see it, it's a harder hill to climb. And so I'm, it makes me feel good that he seems to be involved and he's noticing things and wants to figure out a path to make things better.
And do you feel like that this conference was kind of productive or effective in creating some kind of resolution in terms of helping the kid or the parents or the teacher?
Not really.
And why do you say that? Like what?
I don't like the teacher just went off talking about her own daughter, and I don't think the kid got how that connected to her and how her situation. So I don't really think it helped much.
I'm gonna.
And the chat also added, I don't feel it was successful. It was a discussion, but there was no goal setting or path towards change.
So it was. So even though a meeting took place, the parents and the teacher and the student met, it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't make. Do you feel like there was some level of trust built between the teacher and the parents and the kid?
I mean, I feel like the teacher was definitely working towards that. Teacher shared personal experiences with her daughter, so I feel like that was progressing. I think it's a little early in the conference for us to really know, but she is working to make those connections with the family.
So you can see from, like, if you're looking from different perspectives, the teacher wants the kid to succeed and wants the kid to persevere.
Mhm.
The parents they're noticing that the child's disengaged and didn't perform well, and they want to know what they can do. But in the interaction, it's only 2-minute video because, like I said, I pulled it off the internet and I thought that's perfect. I didn't have an actual video. Nothing really got resolved. So the meeting wasn't productive. And then the question is, what can we do in situations like this? And so one of the things, I'm going to now go back to my PowerPoint. I actually did a study where I interviewed people who went to Ivy League schools like Stanford, Princeton, Harvard, Berkeley. Like I went and interviewed adults, and then I also interviewed adults who were got their doctorates or masters in STEM, and said, what is it that kept you on track to get to where you are at? Like, what were some key things? Because I was interested in the environment. And one of the things as I was listening to the stories of these adults, I was like really blown away as to how much that relationship with the kids and the teacher, like the kids having a relationship with the teacher matters. Like one person who became a famous mathematician, she was just sharing how her teacher would like burst into singing songs, and she thought it was kind of cool and got, like feel like she cared about her as a person, and then would introduce the math lesson. So those relationships with the parents and teachers also matter. So being able to communicate. So part of it is to think about what should that look like. And I think once you're done with the session, think about what does the relationships with my kids look like? What does the relationships with the parents look like? And what would I like it to be like? In this particular video, you kind of see there's like a disconnect between the parents and the teachers. They had goals, but it was not like in sync. So like it's like the teacher's trying to go, I'm trying to help your kid. The parents are like, we don't know what to do. We are seeing a problem, but it's not getting resolved. So these relationships to build trust between the kids to feeling like comfortable matters. What's also interesting, and I'm just talking, this is like parents, like all the people I interviewed said when the kids felt love of the parents and the families, that actually made an impact. And when they loved their teachers, like they wanted to please them. So they pointed out that teachers that make an impact care and have relationships with their students. But moreover, they also understand strengths and weaknesses of that student. In that video we just shared, was the teacher giving information about the child, what they're struggling with, that might have been helpful to the parents? what would you have done differently? Like what information would you have shared if you were the teacher with the kids and the parents? Or what would you have done first? So what would you have done differently if this was your scenario? How would you have prepared for the conference?
Maybe like a compliment sandwich for the kid, like here's a good thing, here's a concern, then here's a good thing again. The kid seemed really down. That would
So
maybe help.
so part of it might be going, even just somebody said, like the kid was out of the equation, maybe the teacher could have asked the kid, so what is it that you're struggling with? What's going on in here? Trying to understand the situation from the kid's perspective. What else could the teacher have done in terms of so they said the scenario, the student didn't do well on the test. So what information would have been helpful for the teacher to share with the parents?
And we have a few things in the chat about thanking them for coming, making sure everyone knew they were on the same team to support the child, saying positive things about the child.
I think it's kind of good to go, your child is not, like building something positive so that they connect on something. As you said, like welcoming, creating that welcoming atmosphere and going, asking the kid what's going on, or giving a child the voice. And also having even being prepared by, here's what your kid's struggling with, because it's like, what was missing in that interaction is there wasn't very clear idea of why the kid was struggling. They knew the kid was struggling, the kid didn't do well on the test. But as a teacher, if you knew, well, they understood how to add, but they didn't understand place value, would that be more helpful for the parent to go, this is what he can work with? So being very specific things, like giving concrete things, going, here's what your kid understands, here's what they're struggling with, and here's some tools that you can help your kid with. That is something that's really kind of would have benefited it.
Kelly's agreeing with you, but also adding on, asking maybe perhaps the students how they felt about the questions in the areas where they struggled.
Yeah, like involving the child. So it's kind of like a two-way listening to the kid, listening to the parents' concerns, and then addressing those specific concerns. So when she was talking, she was trying to get the kid to say perseverance is good and you need to work hard, but that's not helpful feedback for the kid. Well, work hard doing what? So things that are more specific and actionable would be more beneficial in terms of giving feedback. So then the question becomes like, bad enough, you have a lot on your plate as a principal and as a teacher. How do you go about making this easy on yourself? And I wanted to share some resources. Let's see. One of the fundamental things that came from my study when I interviewed highly successful adults is, I was like curious, like, did everybody who goes to Harvard or, were they all like straight A students who had one path? One of the common things they all had, and not everybody did, is that the belief that they're capable, they're smart, and they can figure things out. And so developing that in the kid, where they can experience success, is really important. If you're constantly like failing and you don't know what you're doing wrong, you don't know how to fix it, the feedback saying is you got a bad grade, but you don't know what is it that you missed, that makes it really hard to engage. So when you're looking at instruction, it should build a bridge. Let's see, I might watch a few minutes of this video or another video to share. share the screen again. And I want you to, part of what you want to think about is to ask yourselves, if kids are struggling, are the lessons meeting the needs of the kids? And in this video, I'm just gonna, this is actually a Nevada teacher.
We're on 60. How many shot 100 get? It should be fast. Should be easy.
So this
We're on
is just like a
60,
warm up.
to the 100. Right. Prove it. You said 40. 40 and they land on it. If we count 60, 70, 80, 90, that doesn't help us, right? Because you're just counting to 100. I said how many.
And I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. Now, these are second graders, and students are asked to do this in their head, but they had done some work with this before.
There.
And
Right. Other. Oh, I heard somebody talking. That is not. That's it.
this is a interesting tidbit, like in any lesson. Usually they're like 2 to 5 different answers, and in this case, it's only 2 from the whole group. What is it that the kids, looking at these answers, what do you think the kids who said 80 are missing? Why do you think the kids said 80? Can you read the chat, Heather?
Place value.
So they're missing place value. So like, see how we can pinpoint and identify something the kids might struggle with? So if you know that the kid's struggling with place value, you can provide some intervention, as well as you can tell the kid, the kid's working on 2-digit addition and they're struggling with place values. They can add 1-digit numbers, but they're struggling with place values.
It's like 80. You're focusing on our class.
Oh, can you see it?
I did this. Oh. Yeah. 40. 30. 40. 15. 16. 30.
Do what you need to do. We're gonna see it.
So one way you can look at this and say the kid doesn't know how to do the problem.
So some people, I guess, don't see where you did the problem, but then they don't think you started at one of the numbers you should have started at, right? did he do any of it correctly?
No.
I think he did.
Yeah, because he did the count.
What is 30 and 50? Did he do any of it right?
Yeah, he did half of it.
He got the what right?
10.
He got the 10th right. What did he maybe forget to do? Cameron? No, I think he did I think he got the 10s, right? What did he maybe forget to do? I think he forgot his 1s. Okay, go ahead and go back. Okay, so I'm gonna move this though, because we won't be able to pick up a lot of the board here. Okay, who has 91 that I could share? Hey Cameron, I heard you do your strategy. I would like you to show the way you did it. Okay? Because I heard it, and so I'd like people to see it. So where did you start? You added your, so added his 10s, then he added in how much? 8, and then your final strategy was to what? To count on how many? Great, was that a bit?
So I just kind of gave that a little bit to go in that video. What are some things you noticed about the lesson? Were the kids engaged? And what are some other things you noticed?
Like, even though that first kid, like, he did it wrong, and everyone was like, no, that's all wrong. He's like, well, was it really all wrong? You know, trying to kind of build up. No, it was partially right. So then the kid doesn't feel so bad. I got the answer wrong. But then the rest of the class can see, oh yeah, part of it is right.
So part of it is being able to diagnose. So as a teacher, he was teaching the lesson, he was assessing where the kids were at. I didn't show you the rest of the video. They actually solved the problem in 2 different ways, and then the other kid figured out what he did wrong. But the feedback on what is it that you're doing wrong is helpful for the kid to correct their understanding of place problem correctly. If the only feedback to the kid is you got the wrong answer and you got an F because you did a whole sheet full of problems without doing the place value, what would that do in terms of how helpful is that? So if the kid can go home and get into trouble because they got an F on the test, the parent comes in and the teacher tells the kid, you need to work harder and persevere, but you haven't given that piece of information that the kid needs and the parent needs to be able to support that kid. So part of what you want to think about is what kind of information is actually helpful to get kids to set them up for success. And so part of it is that environment to persevere. You just want to be able to give them the tools and the strategies to figure out what is it they're doing wrong. And if they are doing something wrong, there has to be opportunities to figure it out. You know, how do I make sense of the right answer?
We have a few more comments, Taruni. They noticed that the students were able to share their thinking in a safe environment, and the teacher included other students in the discussion, allowed them to disagree and make adjustments, facilitated a nurturing environment, and encouraged discussion.
Great observations. I know this presentation is focusing on parents, but these kinds of things that happen in the classroom also sets up for success your relationship with the kids and the parents, because now you're setting kids up for success. And if they don't know, you know, as a teacher, you need to identify what is it they struggle with. So when the parents came in and you say you need to work hard enough, that is not as helpful as being specific and saying, the reason you struggle with this is you didn't quite understand place value, but here's what we can do to figure it out. How do you think that would have responded? What do you think the kid's frustration was? If the kid was like all engaged and then now they seem like they're tuned out. So from the kid's perspective, what do you think the kid's experiencing? I'm talking about the original video. Like that kid, you know, who was in tears, did not seem like she knew what, you know, she seemed tuned out, but it seems like the feedback didn't give her anything to improve on other than you need to work harder. And if you're telling the parents you need to get your kids to work harder, that's still not as helpful as, you know, helping that you need to work harder, but in place value or in regrouping. Those specific things are helpful.
Chat says she was seeing defeat and confusion. She didn't feel like anything was applicable. There was no goal or actual support given.
So when you're talking about something else, like when she was talking about her own kid, that didn't relate to the kid's context too, or whatever the child was at. So those are some really good observation. So one of the things you want to make sure, and this actually works. So I'm going to share this framework and it's in this blog. I'm going to put this blog, I created this for teachers a couple of years ago, and Heather, can you copy that, or the math discussions at wordpress.com? It has tons of resources for you as a teacher, but this framework actually is like, these are things you'd naturally do as the teacher, but this is like the kinds of things that you do that helps like pinpoint where the kids are at and help address misconceptions. So here's a resource if you're looking for a resource, and we don't have time to get into this. This framework is pretty much the standards for mathematical practice, and it helps like develop effective teaching strategies. And part of it is looking at, you know, using assessment to inform your instruction. So when I was looking at, you know, interviewing these people who are highly successful, the parents did hold their children and the teachers did hold the children with high standards and expecting them to persist. But when you're saying work harder, that feedback on what do I work hard on is actually helpful than if you're going work harder doing what. So giving very specific things. What parents can do is like expose kids to math in the real world. This was really interesting. Like even when you're saying what kind of things can parents do to help kids do logical thinking, like even family conversations and playing games and stuff with their kids, all that develop like problem solving and logical thinking skills. So when you're building partnerships, you want to think about how to communicate. How, like, who do you talk to? How do you contact that person? How do you provide information so that it's meaningful and relevant? In that video, the first video we watched, we found that there was information exchange, but the information wasn't relevant in both directions or three directions. It didn't address the kids' needs. The parents didn't figure out why the kid was not performing or is disengaged. And then the teacher didn't have enough information to go, okay, what can I do to address this in my class? What is the kid struggling with? So you can get information from the parent, like, what are you noticing at homework? And use that information to plan your lessons. Part of it is to think about I actually wrote a book and it actually applies all the way to college. But what I did do was it outlines the Common Core or the Nevada Academic Standards from kindergarten through 5th grade in really simple terms. So if kids are missing something, you as a teacher can go in and go, oh, they're missing this building block in 2nd grade. So I need to kind of fill in the gaps here. In this book, it teaches very specific strategies on how to study. A lot of kids don't know how to study, even when they come to college and they go to math class, they just go there and copy notes, but they don't know how to think and process information. Since we don't have too much time, I would say look up study strategies, help kids learn how to study, how to, you have a problem and you don't know where to start. Maybe break it down into little parts and say, I get this part, but then what do you do? Breaking things down into chunks, learning what do you do with the information? How do you study in a way that it sticks in your brain? Giving kids strategies on how to study is also something that parents can support at home. Maybe the parents, hadn't been taught the same way. This is one of the things that happens is like parents don't know how to help because this math is like, or whatever you're teaching is completely different in the way that they learned it. So a couple of things that people have done is like maybe create like a class web page and put down resources like put down resources that parents can use, like little videos. Maybe like you could, in your phone, you can record, here's what we're talking about. So giving parents tools and information. There's stuff in my blog, and let me put that, and Heather can share it. Like this blog has a lot of tools. Like you don't have to create everything originally from your own. You can find things and collect some resources. So maybe a video on how to do addition, how to do multiplication, how to do fractions, having worksheets available, communicating, this is what we are studying for the week. Here's what your child is going to be learning. What are the big ideas? I had to say, there was a time my kid would come home and bring worksheets, and I had no idea what the topic was for that week. So I didn't know how to help. So if like you're not using textbooks, having all the worksheets available online or something in an online system so that a parent can go download it if the child lost it on the way home. So just having like resources, communicating specifically what parents can do to help, those are really helpful. But also building that relationship of trust instead of going, oh my gosh, I had to deal with this parent, going, this parent is here because they want to help their kid, but they don't know how. And from the parent's perspective, it might be intimidating going in and going, my child got an F, they're going to think I'm a horrible parent. So I don't know what questions to ask so I can help my child. So part of it is like figuring out, how do I identify the real problem? How do I provide resources? How do I address the issue when I'm communicating with the parents? So your conversations are not like missing each other, so that you can make your job, I believe, work smarter, not harder. Work in partnership so that you get results and the kid gets results and the parent gets results. So any thoughts, questions, comments?
What resources would you suggest for our parents that are non-English speakers?
Um, I think that having visuals, like, things maybe like a video, like even if you don't understand the language, I actually moved to this country as a kid. I was like 12 and I was learning math in a different language and I switched languages, but having visuals, having like a video, look in the blog, things that can show ways to, very simplified ways to how they can help their kids. I think that would be helpful. I think people sometimes don't feel comfortable coming to the school because they don't understand what the requirements, even if you speak the language, it can be intimidating. But if you don't understand,
No habla español. I don't speak. I don't speak the language, so it becomes difficult.
it becomes difficult. So maybe
Barrier.
finding ways to like make them feel welcome. Maybe forming like parent communities. Maybe I can't do everything, but maybe there's a couple of parents who would like to create a support system. One of the things I like when I was teaching elementary school was I like to have the parents form like a community and support each other so they get to know each other, so that linking people up, looking at community resources, like there's online resources and things like that. I know you have a parent university, maybe drawing from them to say, here's some things that my parents are asking for. I know that in Washoe they do, I'm sure. Are you in Vegas?
Yes.
So, asking your district or asking the state, Heather, do you know of any resources for that they could access as a state?
It depends on the parents' literacy level. So there are now all of the math standards and their supporting documents are now posted online for Department of Education, both in Spanish and in Tagalog. So if you have a parent with a literacy level that would be able to read that in their first language, that those resources are available, and that's only within the last month. So those are up on the NDE website. Also, a lot of your curriculum programs, if you're, for instance, if you use Envision or you use Bridges, have both English and Spanish newsletters, family letters, videos, that sort of thing. And so if you don't see that included in an obvious way, I would reach out to either like your curriculum support in your school district and ask them how you access translated materials for your particular adopted instructional material. It gets trickier once you move outside of Spanish, right? We do have lots of student populations that speak something other than English or Spanish. The next most prevalent in Nevada being Tagalog, which is why that is also what we've translated the standards into.
So I think like visuals, manipulatives, videos, things that are short, not something that are lengthy because people don't have time. What I try to do, like in this, in the book, is like really like, this is like this right here, like this box, I will show you. It's just the grade 3 standards of what they should understand about fractions. That's grade 3, that's grade 4. That's just like the big idea that they need to know. It's like a Common Core standard, but it's just like, this is the key thing they need to understand in 3rd grade. I think having like a document like this helps so that it's like simple. Even teachers have a hard time like making sense of like the standards without like, like, is there a way you can simplify the information? So visuals, like as you see in that video, like you can see there's multiple opportunities. Even if a kid doesn't get the language, they're using gesture, they're using drawings, they're using pictures, they're talking to each other. So maybe those are some things to think about on how to reach all parents and families. This is something actually I'm like also thinking about from as a UNR professor. I want to kind of find ways. This is some area I have not branched out into. And maybe you can give me feedback on how, I want to write a grant or something, not this year, but but probably like next year. And to develop resources so that parents can access stuff like this, so that as a teacher, you don't have to create everything. So maybe that's something I'm like having a vision down the road. I use this because this will help parents going, how do I help my kids in math? But maybe I would love to put a website together so that, and like maybe parent webinars and stuff like that, so that people can access them. But as a teacher, as a principal, what I want you to think about is, how do I do this so it's not extra time? How do I do this so it's like a manageable, so it's not like another thing to do? But how do I use my time so that I get the support of the parents, so that my job is easier because now I'm getting results with the kids?
You have a question in the chat, and I will tell you, I've lived this too. How do you bring parents on board who tell you they can't support their students because they're just not good at math?
Well, that is a very common thing. So part of it is to say, you don't have to be good at math, but you can ask, and you say you don't know the math problem yourself. You could ask the kid, here's some strategies, and that's, I actually did list them in this book. You can ask the kid, so what is the problem asking you to do? The kid can have to explain it to you, but you don't have to teach them. What do you have to do next? Now go do that part. Try the next part. And then you can say, where are you stuck? Can you identify where you're stuck? And if you can figure out where you're stuck, you can go look it up in your textbook. You can look up the video. You can look at the teacher notes. Or you can go to class and ask a teacher or a sibling. So even if you're not very good at math, you could give the parents some strategies on how to work with their kids. You can also communicate with the parents. Even if you weren't, good at math, you might want to communicate to your kids, say, you can figure this out. So part of it is like, a lot of people, when they meet me, they go, I was very good at math. And that's okay. So you don't have to be the expert, but you can make sure that kids have time to do their homework. You can make sure that they're held accountable. You can tell the parent, if your kid is struggling, let me know. Maybe I can find, maybe you can find a neighbor or a friend or a sibling, or, after school tutoring or something to support the kid. So you want to give the parents some tools. Yeah, Kelly said you can provide resources for them at home, like hundreds charts, counters, even virtual resources. I think this is really great. It's like when you're doing a unit, plan what materials and resources, physical resources, and then you can see what are some like cheat notes or some things the parents can use. Is there a question to pose? Is there an example? Like you don't want the parent to do the problem, but you can ask the kid to try thinking about it. I think what you want to do is to avoid having parents to be the teacher. Like you don't want them to be teaching the material. When you send stuff home, it should be practice. And if the kids can't do it, that's good feedback for you to address the next day in class. Any other comments? I hope this was helpful. What kind of resources or help would you find helpful in your present role for that would be helpful for parents. Like, why don't you share with each other what works? So it's not just, what are some things you're doing or sharing that you really feel like is going well that you like to share with the group so that you can learn from each other? Russell? I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I can't hear you. You muted the. Russell, you muted. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Like, what are some things that you're doing currently that you feel like works that you can share with others? Because one of the things to realize is using each other to bounce ideas back.
I teach first grade, so I do a lot of interactive hands-on activity for my kids. So I do like using whiteboards, and they write their answer and then reveal. And so my kids really like that because it's kind of like more interactive. I like mine, and I also make my math fun games. So in that way, you know, they're excited to come to my classroom. So just like using a number line, I have numbers in my classroom, and then they jump on it. So my kids, when I ask them which is your favorite subject, reading or math, and they all say math. So that's why I was like, I make my math more fun, and I make the activity like a game to them. So in that way, you know, they think it's a game, but they're really learning the skills.
So one of the things I think is really important is to, as you're building this partnership, is really looking at the kinds of instruction that you're giving and assessing, and you're giving parents specific feedback on what they can do, even if they don't have the knowledge and the tools to help them at home. So I think we are just about out of time.
Or I was just about to say, we only have 5 minutes, and I want to make sure that we have time for everyone to complete the evaluation and attendance link, especially if you're here for credit today. Those are dropped in the chat from me. I also wanted just to share a couple of general updates that are math related with you. The first one being, if you are not familiar with, I'm going to take over the screen, share screen.
Can I real quickly read the two things? Somebody shared the Khan Academy videos.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be looking at the webpage for the Nevada Mathematics Education Leadership Council. This is a relatively new affiliate group in Nevada. It's the affiliate of the National Council of Supervisors of Mathematics. Take a chance to look at this resource, see if this might be an organization that you might be interested in joining. There's some resources, more resources are being created. You can join membership, or if you're just looking for some more information, join a mailing list through this group. They're just in the process of really kicking off and doing their membership drive. Most states have an NCSM affiliate, and Nevada historically never has. So this is really an exciting movement for Nevada to, I should say, catch up with, but really catch up with a lot of our states across the nation in terms of support in math education. The other announcement that's kind of general in math is that the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching is the biggest honor in math and science teaching in the United States. And nominations are currently open for K-6 teachers. So if you know a great K-6 teacher who really does a great job teaching math, science, computer science, or engineering, please nominate them. It doesn't take long. You just click the nominate a teacher button. It asks you 3 or 4 questions. And if you are one of those teachers, and I am sure I have some of you in the house, please just click begin an application, and then it'll say who nominated you, and you'll click self-nominate and take the opportunity to brag about yourself. Don't wait for me to hopefully find someone who knows how great you are, because you know how great you are. So just click begin an application, look through the process today. If you end up being the national awardee, you do get a trip to Washington, D.C. and $10,000. So for you, not for your classroom, whatever you want to do with it. So look today, and honor those teachers you know who are really doing a great job in those STEM disciplines in grades K-6. And a year from now, it'll be grades 7, 12. So if this isn't you now, check back next year. It'll be a different grade band. And that is the end of our show, with the exception of just thanking Taruni for her time. And if anyone had any lingering questions or comments in the last 2 minutes. Well, thank you so much, Taruni. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you, and good luck.